Live stream. My name is Alicia, and in this week's live lesson, we are going to talk about 3 steps to build your vocabulary. So in today's live lesson, we're going to focus on vocabulary building tips. You may have seen me talk about this a little bit on the channel or in our videos before, but today I thought it would be a great time to review these key steps to make sure that you are studying efficiently and to give you some ideas and some things to think about to make sure you're always studying in the best way possible. So as you join, please make sure to hit the like button and of course share this video so that other people can find today's lesson. That would be super cool. So while we wait for people to join us live, I have 2 super quick announcements. The first one is about this banner at the bottom of the screen that says get 51% off. So our team has, if you click the link below the video or above the video, you will find a link to EnglishClass101.com. I think you might see it here in a second. But you will find our team's 51% discount right now. So if you want to get all of the different details about that amazing deal, you can go and find that from the link below or above the video. So please check that out. Quick announcement, quick reminder, number 2 is if you have questions for me, please send them to me. But please make sure you send them to me at our official question submission page, which is at EnglishClass101.com/ask-Alicia. That's a very long URL. You can find the link for this in the YouTube description. So send me your questions there, not in Instagram DMs or in YouTube comments or Facebook comments, because there are way too many and I cannot read them all. So please send them to the official question submission page. Okay, good. So I think everything is rolling, yeah? It looks pretty good to me. YouTube is here. Hello, Judy Barialai. Hello, Mainland Barako. Hi, Nahora. What's up? Gennaro, how are you today? I am great. How are you? Facebook, are you here? Facebook looks like you're here. What's up, Facebook? Okay, so Facebook, hi, Jacob and Juan and World and Jovlin. Hello, everybody. Good. Okay, everything is rolling. So I am going to like and share the video. If you haven't, please like and share it too, so that other people can find today's lesson. Good. Okay, I have shared it. So today we're going to talk about 3 steps to build your vocabulary. So I want to review what we need to do to make sure we are always learning new vocabulary words and to talk about some ways to make sure we remember the vocabulary words we studied in the past. Okay, so let's begin. Part 1. I have talked about this so many times on this channel, but let's talk about it again. So part 1, number 1, regular practice. So make sure that you have a regular practice schedule for yourself. That means you are studying regularly. So what does this mean? You can make a regular study schedule for yourself. So my favorite example is to use your commute to study. So your commute. Commute means your time going to and from work or school or your hobby or some activity, right? So the time that you spend maybe in the car or on the train, on a bus, and so on. This was my favorite time to study because I had to go in the morning to work and come back home, of course, at night, right? So in my case, that was 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening. I used that time on the subway to study. And that was great for me. My vocabulary went like this. So this is always my personal favorite time to study. Maybe you're a little bit different. Okay. Second, another thing I know a lot of people like to do is use lunch breaks. Yeah, using lunch breaks is really like easy to remember for a lot of people. Maybe you have a different break in the day. But the idea here is it's something you do every day and you use that time for your studies. Okay. Another popular time I know for a lot of people is after work or after school. Okay. So there are a bunch of different times. You can find the right time that is best for you. But a couple of tips here. So when you make a regular study schedule, I know a lot of people will say, like, choose the same time every day. I've said this before too. And this is one really good way to keep your schedule consistent, doing something at the same time every day. But so this is, I have choose a time here for your study schedule. But also another good thing to do, this is what I personally like to do, is choose an action to follow. So what does this mean? It means like when you have some action already, something you already do. So for example, you already every day you go to work, right? Or you go to school every day. You already do that thing, right? You just add an action to that. So for example, right after you go to work, you always do your studies, or maybe right after you get home from work, you do your studies, right? So make sure that you have some kind of action to like connect your thing to, yeah? Connect your studies to. So this is something that can be really, really helpful if you don't always have the same schedule, choosing some kind of action to connect things to, yeah? So this one is my kind of personal favorite, choosing something that you always do after another action. Like you get on the subway, you start your studies. So you can think about something that works for you. Okay, good. I'm looking for your questions and your comments now. Hello, everybody that is saying hello. I don't see any questions, so let's continue. Okay, so last part for the reminder here in part 1 is don't give up if you miss a day. So I know lots of learners put pressure on themselves. Like I need to study every single day for 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening. And if I miss it, I'm bad. That's not true. You're human. So if you miss a day, if you miss a study session, if you miss 2 study sessions, just continue. That's all. So don't put lots and lots of pressure on yourself. Don't worry if you miss one of your sessions or you have to do something else that other day. The point is, don't let that become the new habit, right? Go back to your plan, right? Go back to your study schedule and make sure you continue learning, even if you miss a day. So make sure regular practice. So the opposite of this is studying like right before a test, right? We've all done this, I'm sure. Right before the test, you just try to put all of these vocabulary words in your head as soon as possible, right? And you're not going to remember it that way. We're going to talk about why in part 2 here. But regular practice. Make sure you give yourself the chance to have that regular practice, okay? All right, let's continue to a quick break, and then we'll go to part 2. All right, let's see. Someone says the sound is low. How can we fix that? Is it me? Is it me? Can I fix it? I'll try to fix it. Okay, so let's take a quick break, and then we'll continue on to part 2. We'll work on sound. Let me see. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Quick break. Quick break is a very quick reminder that the team has a 51% off discount for you at EnglishClass101.com. So if you want to find all of the details about this, you can find this from the link in the description. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can find the link below the video on YouTube, or you can find it above the video, or maybe over here if you're watching on Facebook. So to find all of the details about that discount, please check that link. I hope it is helpful for you. Okay, so with this in mind, let's continue to part 2 now. So part 2 is about appropriate study tools. So what does this mean? This means what do you use to study vocabulary, okay? So I know lots of people have different preferences, but I want to talk a little bit about study tools and study efficiency in this section, okay? So let's take a look. So the first thing, of course, I want to talk about is flashcards. Flashcards, super popular. Maybe you have a flashcard app or you have a flashcard game. Great, amazing. So something that is super helpful, I have talked about many times on this channel, is not just flashcards, not just like a piece of paper you check, right? Or maybe an app that you check. But a key part of your flashcard study could be something, and in my opinion, works really great, something called spaced repetition flashcards. So what does this expression mean? Spaced repetition means you repeat, so repetition relates to repeating. This is a noun, which means repeating something, yeah? And spaced means there's a gap. So this means they are flashcards that you study, and there's a gap between your study sessions. So there's a gap, a space, when you repeat your studies. So what does this look like? So here's a very, very simple example of maybe a study session for a new vocabulary word. So over here on this side, these are the study sessions, these dots, the black dots here. And then at the bottom is the number of days. So for example, when you learn a new word on day number 1 of your word, maybe in the morning you learn it the first time. You see it the first time, right? And then in the evening, you see it again. You open your flashcard app and you check it again, right? So you've studied that twice, right? Then maybe on day 2, you do the same thing. In the morning, you open it, you open your flashcard app, or you go to your flashcards, you check it, right? Study it again in the morning, okay? That's another repetition. You repeated the word, right? Then in the evening, you do the same thing. Okay, great. So that's 4 study sessions of that word at that point, yeah? Okay. Then maybe day 3, you study that word only in the morning, okay? And then maybe day 4, you study the word only in the evening. So you can see there's a little space. There's more space between your study sessions, right? After day 4, maybe you study again in the evening on day 5. Maybe day 6, there's no study, right? Maybe day 7 or something like that. Day 8, then you study again, right? So the idea with spaced repetition flashcards is based on this idea that if you let your brain start to forget, right? And then you study it again, it will help the word and help the information stay in your long-term memory for longer. Like it will help you to remember the word for longer, yeah? So instead of just studying maybe once here and then you study once a month later and then a week after that, kind of randomly, making this kind of study schedule that uses this spaced repetition helps you to remember things over a long period of time, yeah? So just by making these kinds of changes to the way that you study vocabulary words, you can increase the efficiency of your study sessions, yeah? So you don't feel like you're just studying randomly, right? So you might think, oh, like how do I do this? Like that's a lot to remember, right? Fortunately for you, there are many, many tools now that use spaced repetition systems. So for example, at EnglishClass101.com, we have spaced repetition flashcards that you can use. So if you are a member on our website, you can check that. And you can find the spaced repetition flashcard tools to use to study. So that means our website will remember the words you studied, and it will remember which words are easy and which words were difficult for you. So you can practice those difficult words more and more, and you don't have to look at the easy words as much. So spaced repetition flashcards are super, super great tools to use. If you're one of our members, you can get that along with all of our other study tools. If you're not one of our members, you can become one, or there are other tools that you can find as well too. Okay, so definitely very important to consider how to study your flashcards to make sure you study in the best way, in the most efficient way. Okay, good. I'm looking for your questions very, very quickly. Hello to everybody who is joining. What's up? Hamza and Miole. Hi, Norma and, oh, Miole again. Hello. Welcome, everybody. And everybody on YouTube, hello. Hi, everybody that is saying hello. People still say sound is low. Some people are saying sound is fine. I'm not sure. Some people are saying different things. I hope we can all hear it. Okay. All right, let's continue to next part here in appropriate study tools. Next one, review regularly, yeah? So in part 1, I said regular practice, right? Of course, making your study schedule regular, right? But I also want to remind you to review regularly. So of course, this means past flashcards, like here, you know, if you have spaced repetition flashcards, you will be able to review the old words easily, yeah? Then other things that you can do is review past books and past media. So what does that mean? So for example, let's say last month you watched a YouTube video, maybe one of my YouTube videos or a different YouTube video, yeah? And you studied a little bit of vocabulary from that, yeah? Then maybe today or next month, you can go back and watch that again after you've studied the vocabulary words and just try to watch it again or try to listen to it, try to read that thing again and see if you notice a difference. You might be surprised. So of course, it's important you study between the gaps, yeah? You study between the first watch or the first read and the second one, but make sure you go back and review things. You might be surprised. I have felt surprised for sure sometimes. I go back and listen to something that was difficult for me after I've studied for a few months and I'm like, oh, I can understand more. Like, that's amazing, right? So this is also a really good way to get a little like progress check for yourself. So I definitely recommend you do this with your study tools and with your media as well. Okay? All right, good. Last point here, and then we'll move on to the final part. This is a question I get from you a lot. I've received this question so much. Okay, looks like sound is good now. Thank you, team. Thank you, desk, support desk. Okay, so choose materials appropriate for your level, okay? So a lot of you have written to me over the years about like, how do I choose a book? How do I choose a movie? How do I choose media or whatever? And I cannot recommend for everybody because everybody has a different level, right? Only we know ourselves, yeah? So how do we choose something? This is usually the response I give. Can you understand 70 to 80% of that thing? So if you want to choose a book, for example, can you open the book and understand 70 to 80%? So for me, that means if I can read a page in the book, but there's maybe one word or two words I don't know, that's about right from my level. That's what I feel comfortable with. If you pick up a super hard book about something that you're interested in, but there's so much different stuff in there and you're like, I don't know what it means, you're going to feel very frustrated very fast and your motivation will drop, right? You're going to tank your motivation. Not good, right? But if you understand 100% of it, there's nothing to learn maybe, right? So make sure that you choose something that's a little bit challenging for you. So find that kind of challenging space where you have some room to grow, yeah? So that you're always like stretching yourself. You're always trying to push yourself, finding new vocabulary words, looking at like grammar patterns that you can practice in the book. The same thing is true for media as well. If you try to watch like a really like high level movie or a really fast paced movie, you might feel like your motivation goes down really low, right? But if you choose something easier to understand, you can still learn things and you will have increased motivation because you're learning and you can understand and enjoy that media. Yeah. So for me, this is usually the tip that I give. This is usually kind of the zone, about 70 to 80%, where you can feel good and motivated and you can make sure that you learn. If you are a super beginner, that's great. You can start with kids books and kids shows. Don't be ashamed of that. Don't be embarrassed. I used like kids books when I first started learning Japanese. It was great. So just start with something that is appropriate for you and appropriate for your level. So very important. Appropriate study tools and appropriate level appropriate materials for your level. Okay, great. So this is part 2. So we have regular practice, of course. So you now have a study schedule. I hope you are thinking about your study schedule. And you are thinking about what tools you are going to use to do your studies, right? Okay, so let's take one more super quick break and then we'll go to part 2. Okay, hello everybody joining. I don't see any questions. Welcome. Patrick asked, if I'm an intermediate level, how can I get more vocabulary? We just talked about it. So again, choose materials appropriate for your level. If you don't have access to like our flashcards at EnglishClass101.com, for example, you can find a 2,000 core word list there. If you have just no ideas, if you are like, I don't know what to do, I'm just out of ideas, my brain is shutting down, you can find our 2,000 core word list there. So that's the 2,000 core words that you need for fluency. Super good place to start if you don't know. Okay, let's continue to a break. So if you have not seen this yet, our team has a super awesome 51% off discount. You can find this from the link in the YouTube description, so click the link below the video if you're watching on YouTube, or above or to the side of the video if you're watching on Facebook. You can find that there. So if you want to get all of the details about this, you can go to that page and scroll down and find all of the different tools that you will find. I talked about spaced repetition flashcards a lot today, so you can find so many other different tools there, other things to help you with your studies, so check it out. Okay. Let's continue. Someone on YouTube, Idiomas, wrote, can I read a book without understanding many words? What do you think? I would ask you, can you read a book? Like, without understanding many words? Me, personally, no. If I can't understand the words in the book, then I can't read it, and it's too hard for me, right? So this is why I suggest choosing books, choosing materials that are about 70 to 80%. Like, I can understand at the beginning 70 to 80% of the words in the book, yeah? So if you can understand 0 or 10% or 5%, your motivation will be low. It's probably too hard for you. It's going to be very slow and frustrating, right? Set yourself up for success. Okie dokie. Let's continue. I don't see any questions or comments on Facebook. Hello, everybody joining on Facebook. What's up, everybody? Okay, good. Let's continue then to part 3. So part 3, application. How do we apply the new words, right? So we have our study schedule. We have our study tools, our flashcards. We are putting words in our brain, right? We are reviewing words regularly, right? We love that. So let's go to part 3 then, application. So create with the words you learn. This one I think is hard because we feel embarrassed, yeah? Like we don't want to make a mistake. We don't want to say the wrong thing. We're worried about our pronunciation or whatever, right? But we are learning the language to use the language, so we should create with the words that we learn. Here are just a few ideas. You can put more ideas in the chat. Of course, there are more ideas, but create. So you learn a word. Okay, next, write your own sentence with the word that you learned. That could just be in your study notebook, in a diary, in, I don't know, a social media post maybe. That's tip number 2, write social media posts. So a lot of people I know especially like to use like anonymous, so no-name Twitter accounts just to practice their language skills. I've seen tons of people do this. They just post like what they did that day in the language they're studying. That works for them. Maybe it will work for you. So you can do this with the new vocabulary words that you learn. You can also do this with grammar points that you learn, yeah? And then talk to yourself. This might sound really strange, but this is a really, really helpful tip. So when you are, for example, at home, when you are in a place where you're alone, or maybe just your close friends or family members, like roommates maybe, can hear you, talk to yourself. So like, what are you doing in that moment? Are you making food? Are you studying something? Are you cleaning the house? Try to use those new vocabulary words to explain what you're doing, yeah? So this might sound funny, but we do it in our native languages all the time. So don't forget to do this in the language you are studying, okay? All right, Constantine, thanks for your nice comment. That's so cool. I'm glad that you that you enjoy these lessons. Cool, good luck with your studies, all right? Okay, then let's see, I don't see any other comments. So I want to continue to the last part here because this is connected to this part we talked about in part 2. So I said review your past media here, right? So review the things you studied in the past. Then the next step of this, or like the next part of this, is watch and listen to media, but stuff that is new, right? So maybe you can see the theme here. It's like learn a new thing, right? Like we talked about here. Learn a new thing, review that thing for a while, right? And then introduce something else new when you get comfortable with the new thing, right? So it's this constant process of learn the new thing, get comfortable with it, go on to the next new thing, right? I think I know many learners feel very comfortable reviewing the same thing over and over. Like so many people love to join like live streams about how to introduce yourself. It feels comfortable and easy, right? But make sure you always challenge yourself. So choose videos and podcasts that use your new words. Like YouTube and podcasts are so easy to do for this, right? You learn a new word about your hobby, you can go find a video or a podcast about that, you know? So if you learn something new, go and find something that uses those vocabulary words so that you have the opportunity to practice those things more. Okay, good. So let's see. So questions are coming in. Hello. Let's see. Ivanildo says he talks to himself. Good, everybody does. We all talk to ourselves for sure. Madi wrote, how to memorize words simple without forgetting. Maybe you weren't here. Oops, sorry, I touched the mic. Good. So maybe you weren't here for part 1 or for part 2. So maybe you can review this live stream, yeah? If you missed part 1 or part 2, we talked about making regular practice, making a regular study schedule. And we have part 2 where we talked about studying efficiently so you don't forget the words, okay? So I'll give you a chance, you can take a screenshot at the end of today's live too, so you can remember all of this, okay? Other things, let's see. I don't see any other things actually, okay. Good, I think that's it. Oh my gosh, I'm actually on time today. Wow, usually I talk too much. That's awesome. Okay, so today we talked about 3 steps to build your vocabulary. So I hope that everybody kind of got some good tips and some good reminders about vocabulary building strategies. Yeah, vocabulary building tactics. So again, to review, make sure that you practice regularly and don't give up if you miss a day or if you miss maybe even a week. All is not lost. You can continue your studies after that, right? If you get sick or if some emergency happens, it's life. So make sure that you always pick it back up, right? When you get back to where you started, right? When you get back to that kind of comfortable place where you can study again. Second, we talked about our appropriate study tools. So spaced repetition flashcards, I love to talk about these always, but they're very, very important and such useful tools. So if you want to try these, you can find these if you do not have an English Class 101 account, 101.com account. You can make a new one for free and you will have access for the first part of your account. You can access these cards and the vocabulary list too if you want to try this out. So you can do that from the link below or above the video, okay? So we talked about your study tools, reviewing your past study tools, and choosing materials that are right for you so you keep your motivation going. And lastly, we talked about how to apply what you learned, right? So don't forget this part because, again, we study the language to use the language, right? So make sure that you create opportunities for yourself to use the things you are putting in your brain. All right, great. So that is it for this week. Oh my gosh, it went so fast. So I have to share next week's live information. Do we have next week's live information? Ready to go? No? Okay, I think I have it right here. I will pull it up. Next week, next week I'm going to talk about, how to explain the year's achievements. That will be a good one. So I like to end the year with a little bit of kind of motivation or just a little bit of like reflection. So next week we're going to talk about how to explain your achievements for the year. We're going to focus on using simple past tense, and we're going to talk about like some goal and achievement related vocabulary words. So please make sure you join me again next week. The date for that will be December 6th. Can you believe it? December 6th at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is New York City time. If you don't know your local time, please Google it, or you can set a notification on YouTube or on Facebook to make sure that you don't miss out. Can you believe it's already December? This went so fast, okay? If you want to take a screenshot, I'm gonna move out of the way so you can do that really, really quickly. Go ahead, go crazy. There you go. Okay. Good. So that is it for this week. Thank you all so much for, yeah, I know. But make sure that, what was I going to say? That's different time zone. But I totally lost my train of thought just now. Okay, anyway, join me again next week for the next live stream. I cannot believe it's already December. There was a question that just kind of came up, I saw. Elian asked if this is a good way to learn phrasal verbs only. No, you can learn any vocabulary words with what we've talked about today. That includes phrasal verbs as well. Okay, good. So I have to finish there for today. Facebook, did you have any other final thoughts, Facebook? All right, good. No. Okay, so we'll finish there for today. Phew, we did it. Excellent. So thank you all so much for joining me live this week. Don't forget to check out the 51% discount at EnglishClass101.com. If you do not study, if you do not have an account with us now, it could be a great time to start. So go and check that out. You can find the link below the video or above and to the side. Hope you enjoy. So have a great week, have a great weekend, have a great evening wherever you are in the world, and I will see you again next time. Bye.